Madam Vice President of Vietnam, I'm so happy to see you. And Vice President of the Bundestag. This is a big deal, by the way, guys, so give her a warm welcome, would you? Ministers, all of you incredibly intelligent, high-achieving women, welcome. Welcome to the Global Summit of Women, your summit. So many of you have come from so far: Australia, Mongolia, Philippines, Vietnam, Poland, Iceland, France, Thailand, Cameroon, Kazakhstan, the Congo, Saudi Arabia, the last registrant. Yeah. The UAE, and of course, the United States. United States, hello. You don't need to be embarrassed. Things are bad, but we are not in charge, okay? I can't name all 60 of you, but I thank all of you for making a special effort to come here. So for 35 years, we come together to exchange solutions only, but we can whine publicly, privately, as to what bothers us, but we come here to find a way to have solutions that we can share with each other, whether it is from business, whether it is from government. So in this milestone year, I cannot believe it's our 35th year, come and join me on this journey to look backwards, just to see how far we've come. In 1990, when the summit began, there were only 9 women who were presidents or prime ministers. 1990, okay? So in 2025, how many do you think there may be? Well, guess what? Only 24. 24 women of the 191 member nations of the United Nations are presidents or prime ministers. That's just 13%, okay? Not great. So you go, well, private sector, how are we doing there? Women CEOs. Well, in 1990, there were only 3 women CEOs of the 200 largest companies in the world. 3. So now, 2025, we have 58. Glory, hallelujah, of the 500 largest companies in the world. But that's only 11.6%, okay? So the message here is not great. What about in Europe, where we are right now? Well, in 1990, there was not a single woman CEO of any blue chip company within Europe. 35 years later, not so great. We are at 9%. So here's what we see. Whether in government or in business, women are not in charge, okay? We have to accept that fact. So what about legislative bodies like the Bundestag or Congress or parliaments? How are we doing there? Well, here the message is a little bit better. So right now, I gotta do this routine. In 1990, parliaments only had 10% women, okay? 2025, we are doing better. We are now at 27.2%. And you say, why do I care? You should care, because every law, studies have shown this, every law benefiting women have come from women lawmakers. So for those of you who say, I don't do politics, you know, that's somebody else, I can't trust any of them, I want you to give women lawmakers the benefit of a doubt. You should vote, at the very least, you should vote and figure out who your leaders are, and don't complain when you say, well, I didn't vote for him or her. You have to exercise that right. So you know where else we've made progress? In women's entrepreneurship, okay? Women running small businesses. In 1990, there were only 19% of small and medium enterprises, SMEs globally, were owned and run by women. In 2025, we are now at about 30% globally. And that's a big deal because women start these businesses without collateral, without financing, without know-how, without support of family and friends, without mentors. And they go right ahead and create these businesses. So that's a big deal because small business is the foundation of every economy in the world. We discovered during COVID that more people are employed by SMEs, small businesses, than large corporations. It's a big deal. And women are somehow integrating themselves and making a living, not just for themselves, but for the people they hire. I'll give you an example. In the US, about 40% of SMEs, small medium enterprises, are owned and run by women. Here's the important fact. They employ 11 million people, and they generate $3.3 trillion annually, according to Wells Fargo Bank. That's not chopped liver. That is a real accomplishment, and that is why growing women's entrepreneurship in every country of the world is so important. So when somebody says to you, I have this little business, I do some consulting, they go, oh, I'm glad you're busy. I've seen that. Applaud them. Support them. We want many more of them. Now, there's a number, however, that still upsets me. In 1990, only 47% of women were in the workforce. That's the labor force participation rate. In 2025, it's only 47.7%. It didn't move, whereas men's labor force participation is at 80%. What that means is that there's this large labor pool of very smart, very talented women who are not utilized. And that's not right. Their potential is key to every country's growth, as was said previously by the Vice President and the Vice Chancellor. So this is where we at the summit come in. From the beginning, what we wanted is to accelerate, to speed up women's access to economic futures that are better, to share, as I said, what works. But progress has been slow in terms of women's economic integration globally. And they have been, buffeted by forces that I want to share with you. Early on, in the 1990s, globalization began, accelerated dramatically, and people welcomed it. Global markets, oh my gosh, look at all the opportunities. It created interconnected markets that we still see today. That's why the summit rotates globally. That's why we're in Germany one year, Spain another, Dubai another, Bangkok another, because we want, we women, to experience the global market and to know exactly what it is because you are there, because of the women that you meet and the information, hopefully practical information, that we share. Now, one of the things we also want to do is to foster interconnectedness amongst us. So I was so proud, I mentioned earlier, that the Vietnamese, the large 65-member Vietnamese delegation has done a B2B with a 50-member Kazakh delegation. Bravo. And Cambodia, spearheaded by my dear friend, Minister Kantapavi, has a delegation who also did a B2B with German women entrepreneurs. Bravo to you. It's very important. We always wanted the summit to be a platform that will create precisely those kinds of linkages. Without alliances, we cannot grow. We have to find other ways to enter that global market that those in charge don't allow us to do. So that is how come we had that session on doing business with Germany, because you should explore it. And I'm so proud when I hear that, Cambodia, Malaysia, Vietnam, etc., Thailand have done these B2Bs. Now you noticed I keep mentioning Asian names because let me tell you, the 1990s also saw the blossoming of the Asia-Pacific market. Prior to the 1990s, the majority of the largest companies in the world were primarily European, or American. Recently, based on our report, almost half of the 500 largest companies in the world, as ranked by revenues, are Asia-Pacific companies. That is a very big deal. It means we must explore those markets. It means that the development of global gender equality will depend on that region working harder to create a level playing field for women. So you should meet them. You should explore Asia-Pacific because that is the growth market, and it has become pivotal in order to be successful to know that market. But you know what sped up globalization? It was the internet, which opened doors. In the 1990s, it was like at the early stage. In fact, I think it wasn't until 1989 that the internet really blossomed. So the summit didn't have a website until 1998 when IBM gave us the resources to be able to set up one 8 years later. So we did what everyone else did. We called people, we faxed, we mailed, You remember that? Mailing, faxing? That is where we were. But now, that website is humongous. I mean, it has grown, and when we used to count many years ago, it was 12.7 million hits a year, and our social media is also very robust. But in the same way that we grew, the summit grew in terms of how we did business, we also integrated technology in a big way into every aspect of our programming. So that is why at this summit, you have a lot of sessions on AI. Leadership development in the era of AI. You have intellectual property and AI. What is the status of technology overall? It's important. I mentioned today at the ministerial that there was this New York Times article that really upset me, and it was interviewing CEOs of AI companies, and they pretty much warned jobs will be replaced. Jobs will be replaced, and they said it will be sooner rather than later. And the administrative, data-based jobs are mostly held by women. So the journalist said, so what should we do? And they said, you have to know what it is, you have to use it because people just fear it, and they're nowhere near it. If we don't do that, we won't know what it is. That may be bad or it may be good, and we need to arm ourselves. The vice president said it, we need to equip ourselves digitally. We knew that. Oh, we're on internet. We have strong social media. We do this, we do that. We need to do more. And that is why we need to come together. We have to learn how to do more. So I think we need to pay far more attention than we have in the past. These CEOs said a lot of people fear AI, so they just run away from it. We can't. We can no longer afford it. So we have made some progress, but as Christine Lagarde, whom you will hear from tomorrow evening, said, yes, there has been progress, but better is not good enough. We have yet to address the pay gap, which the Vice Chancellor mentioned. No country has solved it. We have yet to address care work, which he mentioned. There aren't enough child care facilities. There's not enough child care, paid child care, not vacations, time off. There's still a division of labor that makes care work primarily a woman's responsibility. Women entrepreneurs still don't have access to funding, and biases and stereotypes on what women are able to do are still here. In other words, the old barriers remain. But let me tell you what has not changed, okay? It is our combined economic clout that was referenced by the Vice Chancellor and the Vice President herself. We have tremendous economic clout. There was a McKinsey study, thank God for McKinsey, years ago. It was pre-COVID, and it said that 40% of global GDP was due to women's economic activity. 40%. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if they really opened the doors? Booz Inc. said that women are the third billion whose economic impact will be equal to China's and India's economies combined if women were fully utilized in the global economy. Now, others have said that, IMF, World Bank, you name it, UN. We need to repeat it. It's an important message. We don't say it enough. All of you are leaders. Say it in whatever forum happens to be available to you. We need this, they call it the business case argument, is there. There are more studies than I can count that say the same thing, no matter which country studies it. But we have to somehow re-articulate, because that level playing field for women is not here. We need to always say that women are an economic plus to every country's economy. They are not a minus. We understand this, others yet do not. But let's not be naive. As the Vice Chancellor said, we are living in a context that is going to make our fight for equity harder than ever in the coming years. There is that rightward tilt politically, and it comes with a very muscular sense of authority and leadership. And it comes with a more traditional view of the women's roles. It is something that I have seen, you have seen, and it is continuing to grow. In that kind of atmosphere, our being the bearer of the argument of our political and economic plus is very important to articulate. Many people still do not understand why women still have to say that there is an unequal balance of power. There are actually women who say that. Why do you keep talking about it, Irene? We are fine, okay? That is not true. We are not yet there. I mentioned earlier today at the ministerial that there is a movement, they call it a natalist movement. It is a movement to have more children. And the reason is, as Elon Musk said, because the human race is headed towards extinction, so we need to have more babies. Sungju, you're not applauding him, right? Yeah, no. Because what that means, that's why he has 14 children from 4 women. What that means, well, guess where the babies are going to come from? But that may be hyperbole, and there is, as my friend Ertharin mentioned, also a conservative women's movement. They are now coming back, but I said they were there before. They are just now becoming more visible. It is the reality that we live in, and we have to address it, acknowledge it, and say that it's here. So what do? We just have to work together and harder. We have to get together as women, as people, as nations, as we will do in the next few days at this summit. I want you to say, inclusion is not a dirty word, and you should smile when you say it. Diversity is not a dirty word. Inclusion means peace, not war. Inclusion means more talent at the table to solve the world's problems. Inclusion means learning from each other on what works, as well as the mistakes we may have made so we don't do them again. Inclusion means shared prosperity for all of us. The simple math that I keep referring to. You hire more women, you use more women in each nation's economy, and it means global growth. It is so elementary. Why can't the guys get it? No, it's true. I said it's like racing with one leg. You want growth here in Germany? Use the women more fully. Why is there 80% women in part-time work? Because somebody's got to take care of the children, and there's not enough child care. Okay? There's not enough parental leave. You want more children? Take care of the children that are already here. Enable women to be able to do that. Women want families as well as a way in which to exercise their skills and talents. Now, while men may be pushing away from alliances and turning inwards to their own interests, to themselves, to their own work, to their own countries, I want as women to go the opposite direction and push unity, and yes, push inclusion. Because only together can we survive, this grim climate that we are in now. Authoritarian leadership, where many countries are headed, isn't the only model. New Zealand's former Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, said, empathetic leadership is what women and men want. What does empathy mean? Care. Okay? Restoring values into the digital age, it's the value of care. Care for the family, care for our communities, the climate, care for the environment, care for each other. That is what women want, that human value to integrate into the digital world in which we now find ourselves. It is the key to democracy, and it is the key to a peaceful world. So, for 35 years, I have mentioned her, so don't get tired of it. Lady Astor, the first woman to serve in the British House of Commons, she said, there is no point blaming the men. We made them. You did. So it is up to us, the makers of men, to become more responsible. Thank you. And now I would like to give the floor to a member of the Bundestag, very important, here in Germany. Please welcome Vice President Ortlieb.